Hello, my name is Sarah Huey, and today I'm going to be talking about my paper, Cultural Misappropriation, Indigenous Peoples and Their Culture. So this is a little bit of the outline. I will be talking about American popular music misappropriating the Indian culture. I will be describing and giving examples of singing red face, racial antipathy, realized sympathy, cultural misappropriation, cultural confusion, black babe minstrelsy, and playing Indian. And here are just a few different cartoon characters that kind of use some of these terms that I had just mentioned. So Pocahontas, the cartoon Bugs Bunny, and over there is Peter Pan. So what exactly is cultural misappropriation? So this is what kind of helped develop Indian stereotypes. It was when non-natives, such as whites, stealing Indian possessions or so-called like ways in order to gain some sort of wealth or like economic status. So an example of this is the tomahawk chop, which could be seen at Florida State University. Their mascot is an Indian, so during some games and stuff, the students and the mascot and the fans will pretend or act like Indians, which is just wrong in a sense because you are mocking them, and the mascot given isn't even a good representation of the American people or Native American people. And cultural misappropriation is everywhere. It's in children's movies, in a lot of movies that I had seen but just never really understood or just was obvious to the idea or known to the idea that it was happening. So how is it used in American or popular American culture? Radio stations use it, TV shows, it's in songs, and it's in cartoons. We also use name calling, some names that we call each other. We mock Indians. So this is just detrimental to the Indians. It's very rude in a sense because it misinterprets the natives and their cultures, because in popular culture, most like cinema and most other groups like that group the Indians into one. So they represent the Indians as like one tribe, and it's usually a tribe that doesn't even exist. Like they do not wear the clothing that is seen as the natives are wearing, which creates stereotypes because in these popular forms such as those, you see what's called as the white man's Indian, so just an Indian that we as a society have created, and not like a true representation of the Indians, which misinterprets the natives. So coming off of that is what kind of causes cultural confusions. So cultural confusion is false information being spread about natives, causing their identity to struggle. So the false information given from what they dress to how they speak to how they're kind of taught to act like all natives can ride bareback, or all natives are drunks, or my father is Indian, and they're just like, you're just like that mean old Indian. You just have that mean old face. And so it's just stereotypes that we have created as a society that, along the line, spreads false information about them, causing cultural confusions, whether it be from a variety of things. So playing Indian and singing red face. So playing Indian is like children playing cowboys and Indians and using Halloween costumes to dress up as Indians for fun, and putting face paint on your face to look like war paint, and mascots. And like in the movie The Real Engine, there's Native children playing cowboys and Indians, not realizing that they are the Indians and they are the ones being killed, and that it was their ancestors that died and there was massacres, and they just don't understand it. But we play Indian and we act as if we're Indian, and we do it in ways sometimes that are just disrespectful, like the sexy Indian you can see on Halloween, and just mascots. And I'm from Muskogee, and it's a school around here who had homecoming, and they were playing someone whose mascot was the Indians, and for their homecoming parade they all dressed as Indians and were put in a cage. And that is just wrong, and that is just such a misrepresentation of the Indian people and who they are, and it kind of just takes away from the journey that they've come from and kind of just makes fun of them for no reason. Which kind of brings me to my next point of singing red face, which is non-natives mocking native culture through song and dance, which they falsely imitate the native culture, which causes cultural confusion. So in some of these songs, you could be thinking you're hearing a native tongue when really it's not. It's just a made-up language. And in some of the older cinema movies, they would make the people acting like natives say English backwards. So they would just make up a completely new language. And when I think of red face, I just think of back in when Western film was just so popular, and there was people like Elvis Presley and other famous actors who were not natives, but who would take their face and make it of a darker reddish tone and make them seem like they're Indian. And maybe they didn't know, I'm not really sure, but that they were making fun of them or mocking them, because I have watched these things and I didn't realize it was mocking natives and their culture. But it is, and it's wrong, and by now it's just ignorant. So in my paper, I kind of talked about Peter Pan in the segment of the movie of what makes the red man red. So this part of the movie was very controversial because it promoted kind of a racial stereotype. So the song kind of mocked the Indian language in a way. It was a fake Indian language during the song, and it could almost be seen, if you look at the lyrics, like baby talk, and made the natives seem like they were uneducated. So since then, they have had to rename the song and the part of the movie to What Makes the Brave Man Brave. So this is just an example of the kind of links that we as a society have gone to put this kind of stereotype in children's movies. And me and myself have watched this movie countless times, and I didn't ever realize until now that this was a mockery of the Native American people, because we as a society have just overlooked it for so long and have just become oblivious to it. So during this segment, you can see the term playing Indian happening again. Peter Pan is given a headdress and an Indian name, and magically just turned into an Indian all of a sudden. But the Indians within this are characterized and are associated with the white man's Indian, the stereotype that we as a society have made. And the pirates also allowed the children to just become Indian. Like, you can just pick and choose if you want to be Indian or not. So essentially they're all playing Indian. So during this little piece of the movie, you can see Peter Pan being accepted by the tribe within it. And I will probably pronounce this wrong, but it's the Piikani tribe. It's where he earned the trust of the chief, and he was just accepted into the tribe. Like, it was just so easy. but the name of this tribe is also a derogatory term. So this is where I'm going to get into the black minstrelsy. This is insulting to African Americans and African American children. So this term right here means becoming African American by acting or looking like an African American. So white Northerns would act like they were African American. They would darken their face to look like them, and this is all just from a fascination. So like singing Redface and playing Indian, like this is just them acting like another race out of their curiosity. And the tribe name in the movie, I never would have known that that was a derogatory term, and I am in awe that it's in a children's film. So idolized sympathy and racial antipathy. So idolized sympathy is sympathy given to a fantasy Native American character, and it shapes perceived identity of the Native Americans. And racial antipathy is hate towards someone of a different race. So it's Indians being called savages and bloodthirsty. And at first I thought idolized sympathy, that's probably like a good thing. Because I mean, we're now being sympathetic to the Indian people, but they both harm the natives. They both create stereotypes, and hostility is then created towards the Native American people, and they both harm the true identity of the people, which then also ties back to cultural confusion. So the normalization of misappropriation. So we've normalized the Indians being mean in a way to the Indians, like with the term Indian giver, sports mascots and chants, popular TV shows, Halloween and school homecomings, like I'd mentioned. And even I have just become so naive, and I've used the term Indian giver, and not knowing that that's like a term that questions the Indians' integrity and something that they hold so dear. So we have just normalized this as a society that we have just overlooked it. And which kind of brings me to my next point. We are just oblivious to it, and it's going to keep happening until we just put a stop to it, and until we stop using our fascination and curiosity as an excuse, and stop being ignorant. And so we need to stop normalizing the misappropriation of their culture, and we need to just see the Native American people for who they truly are, and if in any way you're going to display them or portray them in a film, do it right and do it respectfully, or don't do it at all. Thank you.